Imagine a moment so dangerous that the United States prepares for the collapse of its entire command system. Not cities under attack, not troops in battle, but the possibility that every military command center could be destroyed in minutes. In that terrifying scenario, there is only one aircraft specifically designed to keep control alive. It is known as the E-6B Mercury, and in military circles it carries a chilling nickname, the Doomsday Plane. This aircraft does not carry bombs. It does not fire missiles. It is not built to fight in traditional air combat. Yet its role may be more significant than that of many combat aircraft. The E-6B Mercury exists for one reason: to ensure that the United States can still command its nuclear forces even if the unthinkable happens. If this aircraft sends a single authenticated coded message, nuclear submarines deep beneath the oceans, missile crews stationed in underground silos, and strategic bomber forces could receive orders that would change the course of human history. That is the weight carried by this aircraft every time it leaves the runway. To understand why such a plane exists at all, we need to step back and look at the foundation of nuclear strategy that has shaped global security for decades. Since the end of the Second World War, nuclear weapons have created a unique form of military balance. Nations that possess them must design strategies not only around using them, but around preventing their use. The entire concept of nuclear deterrence rests on one simple principle. If an enemy knows that any attack will be met with devastating retaliation, then the attack is far less likely to happen in the first place. The United States built its deterrence strategy around something called the nuclear triad. This system spreads nuclear weapons across 3 different platforms so that no single attack can destroy them all. The first part of the triad consists of land-based intercontinental ballistic missiles, commonly known as ICBMs. These missiles sit inside reinforced underground silos located across several American states. Each missile can travel thousands of miles in a matter of minutes and deliver nuclear warheads with extraordinary destructive power. The second leg of the triad is the strategic bomber force. Aircraft such as the B-52 and the stealthy B-2 bomber are capable of carrying nuclear weapons and delivering them to targets anywhere in the world. Bombers provide flexibility because they can be deployed, recalled, or repositioned during a crisis. They also serve as a visible signal of military readiness. The third, and arguably most survivable part of the nuclear triad, lies beneath the ocean's surface. Ballistic missile submarines quietly patrol the world's oceans, remaining hidden and extremely difficult to detect. Each submarine carries multiple missiles, and each missile can hold several nuclear warheads. These submarines are designed to remain undetected for long periods, ensuring that even if an enemy launched a massive first strike against land targets, the United States would still retain the ability to retaliate. This structure ensures that the nuclear arsenal cannot easily be destroyed. But there is another problem that military planners have always worried about. Nuclear weapons cannot launch themselves. They require a command system. Orders must be authenticated, transmitted, and executed through a carefully controlled chain of command. If that chain were ever broken, the most powerful arsenal in history could suddenly become unusable. During the Cold War, strategists spent countless hours thinking about what might happen if an enemy attempted what is known as a decapitation strike. In such a scenario, the first targets would not be cities or military bases filled with soldiers. Instead, the attacker would focus on command and control centers, places like the Pentagon, major communication hubs, and strategic command headquarters. The goal would be simple: destroy the leadership and communication infrastructure before a retaliation order could be issued. If such an attack succeeded, it could theoretically prevent a response. Even if the United States still possessed hundreds of missiles and submarines, those forces would be useless if they never received instructions. The entire logic of deterrence depends on the certainty that retaliation will occur. Remove that certainty, and the balance becomes dangerously unstable. This is where the Doomsday Plane enters the picture. The E-6B Mercury serves as an airborne command and communication platform designed to maintain that chain of command, even under the most catastrophic circumstances imaginable. Instead of relying entirely on ground-based systems that could be destroyed in an attack, the United States created a platform that could take to the sky and continue operating. At first glance, the aircraft itself does not look especially unusual. Its design is based on the Boeing 707, a classic commercial airliner that once carried passengers around the world. However, inside the aircraft, the equipment is anything but ordinary. The E-6B Mercury is packed with specialized communication systems, control consoles, and secure transmission equipment that allow it to connect with nuclear forces across the globe. One of its most remarkable capabilities involves communicating with submarines operating deep underwater. Submarines are incredibly difficult to detect precisely because they remain submerged for long periods. But being hidden beneath the ocean also creates a communication challenge. Radio waves, especially those used for modern communications, struggle to penetrate seawater. This means that a submarine operating at depth cannot easily receive normal radio signals. Engineers solve this problem using very low-frequency radio waves, often abbreviated as VLF. These signals have extremely long wavelengths that allow them to travel through seawater to a limited depth. That means a submarine can receive messages without needing to surface, which helps preserve its stealth. To transmit these signals effectively, the E-6B Mercury deploys one of the most unusual pieces of equipment ever installed on an aircraft. From the back of the plane, it releases an enormous wire antenna that can extend nearly 5 miles in length. As the aircraft flies, this long wire trails downward through the air like an enormous fishing line stretching toward the ocean below. In order for the system to work properly, the aircraft flies in tight circular patterns while transmitting signals. This maneuver keeps the antenna hanging almost vertically, maximizing the efficiency of the radio waves being transmitted. Through this system, the aircraft can send coded messages that reach submarines cruising silently beneath the ocean surface. If a legitimate emergency command were ever transmitted through this system, it could authorize submarine commanders to prepare their missiles for launch. Each of these submarines carries an astonishing amount of destructive power. A single submarine, armed with ballistic missiles, can carry multiple warheads capable of striking different targets across continents. But the E-6B Mercury does not only communicate with submarines. During upgrades made to the aircraft over the years, it gained an additional capability that makes it even more significant. The aircraft is equipped with what is known as the Airborne Launch Control System. This system allows the plane to remotely communicate with land-based missile silos. In practical terms, this means that the aircraft could initiate launch procedures for intercontinental ballistic missiles if ground-based control centers were destroyed. Normally, missile crews stationed in underground capsules would carry out these procedures. However, if those facilities were disabled, the aircraft itself could act as the command platform. This capability makes the E-6B Mercury a kind of ultimate backup for the nuclear command structure. Even if an attack wiped out communication infrastructure across the country, the airborne system would still provide a way to issue orders. The crews who operate this aircraft understand the seriousness of their mission. These teams consist of pilots, communication specialists, and technical operators who manage the complex equipment on board. Their training focuses on speed, accuracy, and the ability to respond quickly during a crisis. In a real emergency, the aircraft must be able to launch quickly and reach the air before a potential strike could threaten it on the ground. Once airborne, it can remain in flight for extended periods thanks to aerial refueling. Tanker aircraft can provide additional fuel mid-air, allowing the mission to continue for many hours or even longer if necessary. Another critical feature of the E-6B Mercury is its resilience to electromagnetic pulse effects. When a nuclear explosion occurs, it can produce a powerful burst of electromagnetic energy capable of disabling electronics across a wide area. Many conventional systems would fail under such conditions. The Doomsday Plane, however, is specifically designed to operate even in that environment. Its equipment is hardened and shielded to continue functioning after such events. Everything about the aircraft reflects the assumption that the world below it might be facing extraordinary devastation. The systems on board are designed to ensure that the command structure survives even when other infrastructure does not. Because of the aircraft's unique mission, defense analysts sometimes monitor its activity closely. Routine flights occur regularly as part of training exercises and readiness checks. These flights are necessary to keep crews prepared and equipment functioning properly. However, analysts often look for patterns that differ from normal training operations. Changes in flight frequency, unusual deployment locations, or extended missions during periods of geopolitical tension can draw attention. Observers sometimes interpret such movements as signs that military planners are increasing readiness levels. It is important to understand that the existence of such flights does not necessarily indicate that conflict is imminent. Military forces frequently conduct readiness exercises to ensure that systems work properly if they are ever needed. Still, the presence of aircraft like the E-6B Mercury serves as a reminder of the strategic realities of the modern world. Today's geopolitical landscape involves several nations with nuclear capabilities. Major powers continue to maintain and modernize their arsenals, while regional tensions and strategic rivalries add complexity to global security calculations. In this environment, deterrence remains a central concept in military planning. Systems like the Doomsday Plane are part of that deterrence structure. Their purpose is not to provoke conflict, but to reinforce the idea that a nuclear attack would never succeed in eliminating a response capability. The certainty of retaliation is what discourages adversaries from taking that step in the first place. Maintaining these systems also requires significant resources. Aircraft fleets must be maintained, crews must be trained, and replacement systems must eventually be developed as older equipment ages. These investments become part of broader discussions about defense spending and national security priorities. Despite its critical role, the E-6B Mercury remains largely unknown to the general public. Most people never hear about it, and its missions rarely appear in headlines. That quiet presence is intentional. Many elements of nuclear command systems operate in the background, designed to function without drawing attention. Yet the aircraft represents an important symbol of the nuclear age. Its existence reflects a reality that has shaped international relations for decades. Even as technology advances and political landscapes change, the possibility of nuclear conflict has never completely disappeared. The Doomsday Plane stands as a safeguard built around that possibility. It exists to ensure that no attack could eliminate the ability to respond. In doing so, it helps maintain the balance that has prevented nuclear war between major powers for generations. Every time the E-6B Mercury takes off, it carries with it the responsibility of preserving that balance. Its mission is one that everyone hopes will never be required in reality. Yet the system remains in place because the consequences of being unprepared would be unimaginable. Understanding the role of aircraft like the E-6B Mercury reveals something deeper about modern military strategy. It shows how much effort has gone into building layers of redundancy and resilience into the systems that control nuclear forces. The goal is not simply to possess powerful weapons, but to ensure that control over them remains secure under any circumstances. Ultimately, the Doomsday Plane represents both technological ingenuity and the sobering realities of global security. It reminds us that the world continues to operate under a delicate balance of power, one that depends on careful planning, disciplined command systems, and the hope that these safeguards will never have to be tested in the most extreme scenario imaginable.